In these perilous times, see from current events how biblical prophecy is coming to pass in front of our eyes. You're watching In the Last Days, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. With Martin and Natalie Blackham, thank you to our friends and partners who make this program possible. Now, here's Martin and Natalie.
Hi, welcome to the In the Last Days television program, the program that looks at Israel. And we have features from Israel and news and special guests on the program. And today we have Rabbi Yehuda Glick in the studio. So great to have you with us. Thank you so much for coming across today to be with us.
Thank you for having me here, and thank him for having me here.
And so we're going to be speaking to Rabbi Yehuda Glick about the Temple Mount and about the recent events that have happened. Rabbi Yehuda Glick is the chairman of the Temple Mount Heritage Foundation and director of Halibah Organization, a coalition of groups dedicated to reaching complete and comprehensive freedom and civil rights for Jewish people on the Temple Mount. Yehuda has previously worked as the executive director of the Temple Institute and as a former spokesman for Government Minister Yuli Edelstein and at the Ministry of Absorption and Immigration. And you recently stood as a candidate for the Likud political party in the March 2015 elections, which we've just had in Israel. He's been a special guest on the BBC Hard Talk program. He's spoken on I24 News, the Israeli Knesset channel, and been interviewed on Israel National News and featured on Jerusalem Online News. And we want to start, Yehuda, really by talking about Wednesday the 29th of October, which is the event where you held the Israel Returns to the Temple Mount conference. And I guess you've been holding conferences like this on a regular basis.
Well, we have small conferences, but our annual conference, it's the 6th of the month of Cheshvan, and which usually comes out somewhere October, November. It's a very unique date because that is the date when Rabbi Moshe, son of Maimon, known as the Maimonides, in the 11th century, 12th century, he came to Israel, and he made, at the time, there were no flights. He came from Spain by boat, and he arrived in Akko, and he walked to Jerusalem, and on the 6th of Cheshvan, he went up to the Temple Mount, and he requested that his descendants mark that date as a day holiday. And we decided that our annual conference for the past 7 years will be held on that evening, and that's what we did. And we had like 250 people who participated in the conference. It was in the Begin Center in Jerusalem.
It was quite a significant meeting because
it was a very significant
instead of having, there's been faithful people visiting the temple, Jewish people visiting the Temple Mount for many years, but we're talking about people from the Knesset. We're talking about, influential people coming together in harmony to see what can be done about the Temple Mount. And maybe I'll just explain for our viewers the Temple Mount area. We have the Kotel, the Western Wall, which most of you are familiar with, and then the plateau, the area above it, where the first temple and the second temple were built, which is today a difficult area because you've got the Dome of the Rock and the Alaska Mosque, so it's quite a difficult area. And so this meeting was very significant.
It was very significant. It was because, as I said, lately many things are happening there. Many groups are coming there. The place, which was for many years ignored in a way, and even though it's surprising, as you mentioned, the two temples still stood there. It was the central of Jewish life for many centuries, and it was the dream of the Jewish people for 2,000 years to return to Zion. Zion in the entire Bible is always referring to the Temple Mount. So it really is exciting to see more and more people from around the world who are making every effort to go on and to come to the place, the only place in the world where God said, my divine presence is there. And, when people come to Israel, by profession, I'm besides my master's in history, I'm a tour guide. And many people come to Israel. I would say even majority of the tourists who come to Israel don't come to Israel because the beach of Tel Aviv is the most beautiful beach in the world. I got a surprise for you, it's not. But they come because it's the only place in the world where you can, in one hand, you can hold the Bible, and you can actually walk in the footsteps of the words of the Bible. You know, Abraham comes to Israel, he comes to Canaan, and he goes through Elon Moreh to Hebron to Beersheba, and you can actually walk in his footsteps. You can go visit the village of the prophet Amos in Tekoa, or you can go visit the footsteps of Jeremiah in the mountains of Anatot, and beyond that, you can see the words of the prophet coming out, materializing in front of our eyes. You know, the most magnificent thing in the history of mankind. The people of Israel came back home to their homeland, and you can actually see that all. So here we are in a situation where people, and now there are millions of people around the world who are faithful in the Bible. And in the Bible, we know that the holiest place in the world is the Temple Mount. So here they are coming to the Temple Mount, and what they find there is that this place, which is the holiest place in the world, and it's a very sensitive place, is in a way been taken over by one religion. And instead of a place being a house of prayer for all nations, and a place which emphasizes its sensitivity, its respect to all religions, there is a lot of intolerance there for others who are not Muslims. And
which brings us on to what happened at the Begin Center, because and people at home may not know this, but every time not just Yehuda, but every time that a Jewish, specifically a Jewish tour group will go up to Temple Mount, to the area just above the Western Wall, which you can, by the way, you're very welcome to go and visit it. It's normally open very early in the morning.
It's open for non-Muslims around 4 hours a day. It's from 7:30 to 10, and it depends. In the winter, it's from 12:30 to 1:30. In the summer, it's from 1:30 to 2:30. But it's open almost like 4 hours a day for non-Muslims. Whereas for Muslims, it's open 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. So here we are, the difference. But as you mentioned before, any Jew with a kippah, or anybody wearing a kippah, or anybody who looks like a religious Jew who walks onto the Temple Mount, is immediately attacked by harassment, by screaming and yelling and different verbal violence, sometimes even physical violence, such as chairs being thrown at you, or shoes being thrown at you, and etc. And I have been bringing groups up to the Temple Mount for many years, and in the past past couple of years, I would say, I bring almost daily 2 or 3 groups. I'd be going up every single day with many groups, and unfortunately, though I preach tolerance and respect to human beings and try to dignify the place and respect the place, I've been attacked personally, and I've been referred to as, I would say, the one of the main leaders of this phenomena taking place, and people and the Muslims who have been losing any kind of tolerance towards others have referred to me as, I would say, the peak or the edge of the arrow, and therefore this brings us back to the 29th of October. As the conference was over at around 9:30 p.m., I stayed around speaking to people, and at around 10:05, I walked out with all the material from the conference, and I was putting the stuff in the back of my car. My wife was sitting at the steering wheel, and as soon as I had put the first part of the stuff into the back of the car, I turned around, and there was a gentleman very close to me, even closer than we are standing right now. He was on a motorcycle with a helmet, and he says to me, "I'm very sorry." And I didn't understand who he was, and what he wanted from me, so I got closer to him, and I was looking at his eyes. I didn't realize that he had something in his hand, so I got closer to him, And then he said to me, "You are an enemy of El-Aqsa," and he shot point blank 4 bullets into the center of my body. I was able to run around 20 meters, and then I pretty much collapsed. I had 2 people who were with me. He drove off with his motorcycle, but these 2 people that were with me, as soon as they saw that he ran away, that he rode away, they came over to help me out, and one of them yelled to me, "Rabbi Yehuda, we need you, don't go." And then I realized that my situation was very critical. I mean, after that, I pretty much lost conscience.
So they called an ambulance, I guess.
They called me. And my wife was on the phone, actually. She immediately hid under the steering wheel, and she continued the phone call, and she told the person she was talking to, she told her, "Please call an ambulance. They just shot my husband, and we are at the Begin Center in Jerusalem." She hung up and she called the police, and the other person called the ambulance. So within minutes, there was an ambulance there. I was out of conscious, but Baruch Hashem. I say Hashem has his messengers, and his messengers include the people who made the right phone calls, my wife and her friend, and of course the different medical organizations in Israel, including Hatzalah, Magen David Adom, and then afterwards the Shari Tzedek Hospital, the Hadassah Department of Rehabilitation, and most and for all, millions of people around the world who are praying. And I would like to take this advantage and speak to them personally, and really, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you, those millions of people around the world, those who know me, those who know me less, those who don't know me at all. But I was in your prayers, and it really touched my heart to find out afterwards people from all over the world, from Pakistan to Buenos Aires, from all over the United States, and from, of course, all over Israel, who were praying for my health. And though I arrived to the hospital in a critical situation, and the doctors were very pessimistic about the chances of my survival, many people came to the hospital that night. Some of them admitted to me later that they came to pretty much say goodbye, including my family. And God had other plans, and I was a spokesman in the past, as you mentioned, for different ministries. I was never a spokesman of God, so I can't really tell you why God saved me, but I can definitely say 2 things, and this is 2 things that I always emphasize. Number 1 is the fact that I was shot in the name of Islam, so-called, but I was taken care of by Muslim physicians, and I think these Muslims did much more for Islam than the person who shot me. And I was shot because I represent the right of all people to come to Jerusalem, the city of God. And if I would, God forbid, have been killed, it would have been a terrible disgrace of God's name. So I'm thankful that it did not happen. And the second thing is that I don't know why I am alive, but I can say for sure that if God saved my life, it means, and I love life, and I'm happy I'm here, it means that he thinks that I still have what to do in the world.
With the Temple Mount.
And since I've devoted my life entirely to the Temple Mount, to Jerusalem, to bringing the word of Jerusalem to the world, it means my mission, he thinks that I still have what to do. So my motivation is just grown, and I feel that I have an obligation to speak up in the name of God, in the name of the Word of God, in the name of the city of God, and to call people to turn the Temple Mount to a house of prayer for all nations. And that's what I'm devoting my life to.
From the book of Isaiah, that it will be a house of prayer for all nations. This is the words
of Isaiah, starting in Isaiah 2, where all the nations will stream to the Temple Mount. And yes, and Isaiah says that all the nations will call in the name of the one and only God.
And we're finding that more and more Christians are coming to Israel, but not just coming to Israel, they want to connect. You know, the importance of the temple cannot be underestimated because, and that whole area cannot be underestimated, because that's where historically, that's where it's been. Historically, we can prove that from archaeological archaeologists who've, in fact, there's a thing called the Temple Mount Sifting Project, which is happening in yeah, and you can actually visit that as well, and you can see artifacts from the temple, and it's a place, you know, where it's a connection to God. We know that's
the only place in the world where God said, "I have chosen to rest my divine name in this place." And if we, and I'm talking to all believers around the world who are faithful to the Word of God, and it, you know, when Isaiah said that all the nations will be coming to Jerusalem, it was pretty peculiar, because at the time, all the nations, except for the Jewish people, were idol worshippers, and Isaiah had to have a lot of chutzpah.
They might have even thought he's put goyim by mistake.
Maybe, yeah, because, you know, at the time it was before anybody heard of Jesus. It was before anybody heard of Muhammad. It was before the entire world was a world. You know, today atheists say to people, "Do you believe in God or do not believe in God?" Even that question is a question you couldn't have asked in the time of the Bible, because the time of the Bible, the question was, how many gods, which gods, and here we are in a day where the world, and I personally have visited even the East, in Taiwan, and people here who are leaving idol worshiping and returning to Christianity, and to being faithful in God, and I think this is part of the days that we have the privilege to live in, the seeing, as I said, the Jewish people coming back home to their homeland, and not just coming back home to their homeland physically, but returning to the culture, returning to the language, returning to God. And the Jewish people have a mission into the world to bring the light of God to the world. And our forefathers, Abraham, he was the father of all the nations. And we refer to all the nations as God says, and those who bless us will be blessed. And it's not only bless us, those who want to connect to the fact that the message of God, which is the message of righteousness and the message of, I would say, moral behavior, of being spiritually close to God in your entire life, eating in order that you should have the power to worship God, and living a life of connecting. You know, the very first verse in the Torah is, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. And that sentence in itself is an unbelievable message to the world. Yes, he who created heaven is he who created earth, and our job is to use the earth and not exploit it, to use it in a way that will connect heaven and earth. And the place where heaven and earth meet is the Temple Mount. And this is the Garden of Eden. And this is the place where water will be coming out and healing the Dead Sea and bringing life to the world. So bringing life to the world means connecting the world to God. And this is the mission of the people of Israel. So we have returned to Zion to, as the prophets say, rise up and bring your light to the world.
And what is amazing is that they tried to silence you, because not just on the temple, and by the way, they've been trying to do that on Temple Mount by all this screaming and Allah Akbar when you visit, but actually by the assassination, the terrorist attack on you was to silence this voice. And now afterwards, you know, we were amazed. You were invited by the BBC, which for their Hard Talk program, which is quite a tough.
It was interesting. I just bumped into a few weeks ago. I bumped into there was a representative of the Israel National News, Arutz Sheva, at the conference, and I bumped into him a few weeks ago. The guy who was there, his name is Chizki Ezra, and he said to me, "You remember the last sentence you said to me that evening?" I said, "No. What was it?" He said to me, "You approached me and you said, 'What can we do to make sure everybody knows about this conference?'" And now everybody knows about this conference now, and you know, I mean, I went through difficult months, and I'm still going through a process of recovering. But, you know, in a civilized world, two people who are arguing, and one gets up and slaps the other one in the face, that doesn't prove that he was right. And in a world where we see, it can be in Paris or in Australia, terror is trying to silence freedom of speech. Terror is trying to silence freedom of worship of God. And in Paris, the newspaper didn't close down, but instead, the next week, the following week, it came out, instead of 30,000 copies, it came out in 7 million copies. And this is a message, and this is my message, that trying to silence us, even if they would have succeeded in attacking me, I'm not something personal. It's not me, it's the issue. And
which you've been trying to raise in the Knesset as well. And what I found fascinating was that, you know, in the Knesset you've been working very hard, and for our viewers, they might not know, but you've been having meetings in the Knesset about Temple Mount with others to raise the issue. And whilst they might try and silence you, the Knesset was silenced because Yuli Edelstein, who's the speaker, stopped. I'm presuming this is true, but from what I've read, he had to stop the Knesset in a mid-session to answer the phone that you were phoning him.
Right, he answered the phone. That was when I woke up, and it was after days that I was silenced, and they removed the breathing instruments from my mouth. And the person I said I was going to call, I called Yuli Edelstein. As I said, you are the spokesman. You represent the parliament, a place where freedom of speech is available. I want you to know that my speech has been returned. He stopped the Knesset session, the entire Knesset, and he got up and he said, I have to tell you, everybody, I just received a phone call from Yehuda Glick, and he asked me, as the spokesman of the Knesset, to be on watch for freedom of speech. And that was the message. And it was immediately, within seconds, the message went all over the world. It was the message, headlines of all the news, all over the world. My wife, who was standing right outside of there, she told me she received phone calls from all over the world, emails from all over the world. Wow, and the excitement that I was able to once again speak. The fact that those tried to silence my message, and here I am, able to speak. And the message was not silenced.
And you were also standing in the election. You were so here you are, you know, with this terrible incident, a terrorist attack, attempted assassination, and then we now find, you know, we open the newspapers. Here you are standing with the. I've got on the research the picture of you with Netanyahu, and I believe Netanyahu contacted you.
Yeah, he contacted me. Not only that, in the middle of, I've been on the Likud, been very active in the Likud for many, many years, because I feel that it's like a home for many different people, the entire society of Israel. It's like a tent party, and there was a session before the elections, and I was able to get there. I arrived there on a wheelchair, and suddenly Netanyahu was going up to make his speech, and he like spotted me by his eye, and he told his bodyguard, I want to go over to Yehuda Glick, and he comes over to me and he hugged me, and I am now the representative of the Judea and Samaria district on the Likud list. I'm number 33 on the list. The Likud received 30 seats, so I'm like three seats away. If things can happen that 3 people get different jobs or something for some reason decide to leave the Knesset, I'm number 33. I have 3 more space ahead. But I'm very happy that many people in the past few months from all over the world, were trying to silence Benjamin Netanyahu. There was pouring dollars from all over the world on a campaign to try to silence those who speak up for the rights of the Jewish people here in Israel. And I'm very happy that they were not successful, and I'm very happy that Netanyahu was once again reelected. And there is a lot of happiness, I think, in the streets of Israel that the campaign, which was a very active campaign, brutal campaign against Netanyahu, speaking up for the Palestinians who have been supporting terror around the world and around Israel, for the past decades. And I'm very happy that Netanyahu was reelected. I hope we're confronting, I hope that we're approaching more years of a strong Israel, a proud Israel. And I hope that the word of the Temple Mount will be heard loud and clear around the world and in Israel.
And if the people who are watching today, the viewers, would like to contact you or contact or find out, I think there'll be a lot of people who've watched the program who want to find out more about Temple Mount, more about the importance of the Temple Mount, and more about your organization. Is there a website they can go to?
The easiest way is to contact us. We're Temple Mount Heritage Foundation, which is templemounthf@gmail.com, templemounthf@gmail.com. You can find me. I answer all people who contact me on Facebook, Yehuda Glick. There, you can find me easily. You can find me, once again, templemounthf@gmail.com. We try to answer all our emails, and we try to give out information. I have many Torah lessons on YouTube. You can look for Yehuda Glick. You'll find many teachings of the Bible, the Word of Jerusalem. And you're welcome to be in touch. And as I said, please feel free to make the contact. And I promise that we will try to get back to anybody who contacts us.
We're so sad. We've run out of time, and we know that you've got an important engagement to go to. So thank you so much for coming in today and being with us. We're so excited that you're back, and I know
the water is the best thing to do. L'chaim to the world, l'chaim to Hashem, who has saved our lives. And I hope
we asked the viewers. I know there've been people praying for Yehuda for his recovery. So continue to pray that you all get complete healing in every part that you need, and that all the recovery process will go well. If you'd like to contact us, don't forget you can email us at info@inthelastdays.com. And remember, we're living in the last days.
You've been watching In the Last Days, a TV program with Martin and Natalie Blackham, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. If you would like to financially support the program or find out about conferences, meetings, or ministry products, then please contact us with the details on your screen. Visit our easy-to-use website at www.inthelastdays.com and register for our free e-newsletter. Get the latest news from Israel, product information, online video teaching, or watch today's TV program at a time that's convenient to you. Thank you again, friends and partners, for making this program possible.
See you same time, same